Hosted by Mike, the Big Cheese.
Look out where the lightning strikes. They will take your winning lives, and you know it's coming for you. Blaze upon your darkest fears. You'll never know when it appears, and you know it's coming for you. Come on, take my hand, and at my command, you will fear no evil, yeah. Come on, take my hand, and at my command, you will fear no evil, yeah. Whoa. Fear no evil, no, no. Fear no evil. It's our force you cannot see, brings you false security, and you know it's coming for you. It comes to you in the dark, at the sign the wolf will bark, and you know it's coming for you. Come on, take my hand, and at my command, you will fear no evil, yeah. Come on, take my hand, and at my command, you will fear no evil, yeah. Whoa. Come on, take my hand, and I will lead you from this place of evil. Follow me, and you will find that you will be no evil, no more. Come on, take my hand, and at my command, you will fear no evil, yeah. Come on, take my hand, and at my command, you will fear no evil, yeah. Whoa. Fear no evil, no, no. Fear no evil. Look out when the lightning strikes. They will take your winning lives, and you know it's coming for you. Blaze upon your darkest fears. You'll never know when it appears, and you know it's coming for you. Come on, take my hand, and at my command, you will fear no evil, yeah. Come on, take my hand, and at my command, you will fear no evil, yeah. Fear no evil, no, no. Fear no evil, no more.
All right, welcome back to the Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio Show. It is Sunday, April 23rd, 2023. Man, one more show left and the month of April is over. I can't believe it. But we got a great one tonight. The ever lovely Liv Kristine is on tonight's show, as well as Daniel Cleland from Savage Existence. We'll be talking to Daniel, I think, I didn't even confirm the interview. Hopefully he remembered. We'll be talking to Daniel in about 20 minutes or so. And right there, Grim Reaper with Fear No Evil. There's going to be the Wings Festival over in the UK, celebrating Steve's life, and there's quite a few bands playing on it, so go check that out if you happen to be in the area. And we'll get to that a little later on, and more of the metal news and everything else that's fit to complain about in the second half of the show. We're going to keep the music going here for a little while. Boy, I tell you, it's been a long day. All right, how about, let me see, I got a couple of new things I want to get to sometime during the show. New Jack Panza. I don't know if you heard the second song they released, but this new album is getting better and better. And I can't wait for the whole thing to come out. We'll have Mark Bayardi on the show in June to talk all about that. How about we do a little, let me see, how about we do a little Valkyrie? It's been a while since I've played him on the show. Choosers of the Slain. right, Valkyrie, choosers of the slain, thrust, fist held high, and right there, Messiah Force, call from the night. I do a lot of complaining about these festivals when they reunite, like, bands with one member, and it's not even a key member. It's just the bass player, the drummer. And please, I get so many emails from bass players. I feel like I'm insulted. Listen, I'm a bass player myself, and, I don't think anybody wants to see me play live if the rest of Stillbone wasn't there. Or, matter of fact, the whole rest of Stillbone. But I just mean it like, if you're a five-piece band, and you have at least two of the key members of that band, and one's the lead singer, that's okay. If you got a four-piece band, and you get those two with the singer, that's even better. But Messiah Force played with all five original members. That was impressive, and they sounded and they looked great. I mean, Lynn was just blowing me away. I mean, it was so great to see her up there again. I just reached out to her about coming on the show. She's probably just getting back or getting settled in, so hopefully this week I'll hear from her and we'll get her on here in May. But Messiah Force killed it at the Keep It True Festival. Who else did I get through? Cyclone were really great. Halloween absolutely killed it. Brian sounds great on vocals. I don't know what the hell he had on his head. That was some really bad black wig. I don't know if it's part of his stage costume now or what, but he does have pretty long hair to begin with, so I didn't get the whole wig thing, but they looked and sounded great. Halloween. George Neal, the bass player, he's been sick for quite some time. He looked pretty good up there, and they just sounded phenomenal. I didn't get through all the bands yet. I was busy this weekend, but I'm going to start working my way through all of those shows, this coming week. All right. How about we do, you know what? I got brand new Jack Pans I want to get to, so how about we do that first? Then we'll do some Slammer, and I'll dig up something before the next guest comes in. So, brand new Jack Pans, and his album is sounding better and better with every song they put out. Here's Stronger Than You Know.
Master of the sky, we own it. This is where we play. fight. The beats are repeating, my legion screams. The gate must be open, I'm after to repel. A message of hope, up through the gates we march. Stretches away to the sailors and craft. A vacuum below is the path. A vacuum below is the attack. Attacking with force, we show no remorse. Obstructing our victims' fate. Something in the town, saluting the fight. Our virgins must die this night. Satanic reaction of us of his kids is taking the life from your soul and leading the train in his truck from hell and finding our way through. Curse of the legions of death. Curse of the legions of death. Curse of the legions of death. Legions of death. Curse of the legions of death. Curse of the legions of death. Curse of the legions of death.
We'll have to get back to that. We got Daniel online here. Daniel, this is Mike. You're on the air live. How are you?
Yo, hey, what's cracking, Mike? How you doing?
Good. How you doing? You got a big month coming up for the band right now, huh?
Oh. loving life.
I hear that. Well, like I said, you're hitting the road in a couple of days with Ross the Boss over in Europe. The brand new record's coming out in a couple of more days. It's been busy for you guys, and that's always a good thing in the music business.
Yeah, man. Particular tendency to be very impatient. So we right from the beginning when we started this, we have just really tried to move at the fastest speed possible, and things are finally starting to come to fruition. It's about a year and a half since we released our first album. We've toured with played with Cavalera Brothers, played with Monstrosity. We opened for Suffocation. Now we're going out with Ross the Boss, which is just one of those kind of classic, well established, especially in Europe where we're going. Classical metal bands that just many people know. They've been around for ages. They've put out a ton of good music, especially with Manowar. And we're getting the whole experience, man. We're riding a bus with those guys, touring 4 different countries, doing 14 shows, and it's a hardcore run though. It's like 6 shows a week, so six nights on, 1 night off, and yeah, we're pretty stoked though, man. And the first day of that tour, our second album comes out, so that will be our self-titled album, Savage Existence, which is absolutely awesome. We're very proud of it, and that drops on April 28th, the first day of the tour, and so we will be out there playing some new songs that nobody's heard before.
That's going to be a great thing. And, the band kind of got going like during the whole COVID thing. And it had to be difficult because you're trying to promote the band. You want to get out there and play live. I don't know how it is where you are, but here in the States, everything was shut down for a long time. Bands were having trouble. But you guys seem to focus on the music during that period and really just building up the band, the name through its music. Was that the game plan when everything kind of took place?
It's kind of a blessing in disguise in a way, because we actually started the band during COVID, right? Like, and the reason for that was because me and our drummer Jesse Radford, who's like my best buddy from way back in the day, since we were like 5 years old, next door neighbors in Canada, etc. And we started playing like back in the day, like in high school, and we continued on through college, and we were writing music, and we had the dream of getting into the music business back in college, but when you don't have any money and you don't have any presence, and life is hard, and you got your parents telling you to go get a job and everything like that, we ended up kind of going in a couple different directions. And the way I went was kind of around the world and got into tourism and started my own business here in Costa Rica, which very long story being very short. And then Jesse actually developed his career as a chef and graphic designer and web designer, just general tech wizard. And he came down to Costa Rica to work at the retreat center I own here. He's actually dating my business partner, Melissa. So we were here working together since 2018. And every time we go out and have a couple drinks, you see Jesse moving his hands around like, fuck, man, I need to play drums, man. I need to play drums. And so then we all got locked down here in Costa Rica in March of 2020, right? So there was no notice or anything like that. We were all here working, and they just overnight closed the border. As soon as there was one case of COVID in Costa Rica, they just completely closed the borders. No warning whatsoever. Nobody could get in or out. So we were all kind of stranded here, and we got this big retreat center that, with nobody in it. And so we had like 8 people living there in this huge, 8-hectare property, 22 acres or whatever it is. And we just were like, screw it, let's start playing again, because we've been talking about it for so long. So we just started playing together during that time, which was great because we had nothing else to do. So it kept us busy in one way, and then it kind of reinvigorated this passion and this desire to get into the music business in another way. And yeah, basically as soon as things started kind of moving again, Logan Mader, who's our producer, he was able to get out of the States and come down to Costa Rica, which he did in like June of or July of 2021. And we laid down our first album with him, which was kind of like an somewhat of a modernization of some of the old songs that we had written back in the day when we were, in college and like just kind of starry-eyed young 20s, kind of just wanted to get in the music business. So we reinvigorated some of that music, and we also wrote some new stuff. And then Logan came and busted out our album. And so that was all well and good. That all flowed well. Getting out on our first, like getting on the road after that was pretty difficult, though. Like, we went to Mexico in 2021 in December, right? So it's cold there. And there was still a lot of, people getting sick with COVID, and like there was still some weird restrictions, and there were curfews everywhere. It was just not a lot of people were going out to the clubs and bars. And, so we ended up kind of burning through some cash going to Mexico and not really having great turnout for the shows. But it has been getting better. And, I think now we're pretty much back to normal around the world.
Yeah, it seems that way. You're heading over to Europe now. I guess this is the band's first time going there, and the metal
Yep.
fans in Europe are just like diehard. They show up. They come out in force. I mean, it's like night and day compared to here in the States, or maybe even Costa Rica. It's a whole different environment over there. But you're hearing more and more, like you see, a band like Godsmack had to cancel their tour because of the expenses and the ticket sales. Anthrax, another humongous band, just had to cancel their tour in Europe because of the expenses. And I mean, how does that? I mean, for a band like Savage Existence going over there, I mean, the expenses must be extraordinary to take on.
Well, it's certainly high. Fortunately, I have a completely unrelated business that is supporting, our growth phase here, kind of bridging the gap between, not having any revenue and having some revenue. So yeah, we need the experience. We need to get out there and sharpen our teeth on the circuit. Um, we're also trying to do things in a super budget way, especially like the kind of the collective band expenses. There's like gonna have like 16 dudes riding on one bus. It's gonna be tight quarters. When we do day stops, it's not we're not staying in 5-star hotels and stuff like that. Um, all that stuff comes just maybe as a little treat for us, but that comes out of my own pocket kind of thing. So yeah, where I guess it's a little bit pricey, but it's just a necessary move, and the whole objective is to like, get to a point where the band starts to sustain itself financially from ticket sales, from merch, and all that, and then obviously, hopefully sooner than later, get to a point where you start to get into the plus signs. So yeah, it's a tough business to crack, man. It's really music industry has definitely taken. I mean, it's taken a huge hit from COVID. Um, Anytime gas prices go up, anytime there's inflation, anytime there's supply chain issues, anytime there's labor shortages, it just makes things much more difficult. Streaming doesn't like bands don't get really paid for making music unless you're doing like zillions of streams, and it's really hard to make a buck unless you're really big and you're pulling thousands of people to each show. And even if Anthrax and Godsmack had to cancel their tours, those are probably a couple thousand people a show or more. And if they're not turning out, I also heard that Machine Head and Amon Amarth, they did a big Euro tour like last year, and I heard that they had kind of started off with these big production budgets with like pyro and stuff like that, but had to pull back a bit on some of the costs because ticket sales weren't as dependable as one might have thought, and perhaps just tons of additional increases due to inflation or additional regulations or who knows what. It's just getting harder and harder. But if you really want it, you just have to find a way through.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's a necessary expense. I mean, you have to look at it like it's a promotional expense in a way. That's how you build up the brand of the band and you get out there and do it. There's no other way of getting around it, unfortunately. And, until you get to that point where it is self-sufficient, the band on its own, these are the things you do. Every band goes through and they have to. It's just coming out of the COVID thing is making it a lot harder for bands like to make that happen. But it's getting better. And you'll see the difference in Europe when you go over there. I mean, it really is like night and day.
Oh, we're super excited, man. Like I've never been to Germany anyways. So, for any reason. So going there, I think we're doing like 8 or 10 shows in Germany, up in the northwestern corner. We're starting in Frankfurt. We're working our way down to Hamburg, and we're doing some shows in Denmark and Netherlands and Belgium. So that's pretty cool too. Just a nice part of Europe, right? Kind of in the middle there. And I've heard really good things from people that it's a great place to be, and they're interesting locations. And yeah, just doing the whole thing, kind of living the dream. Like we're all just really stoked. We've been here rehearsing a lot, where we've got it sounding really, really tight. A lot of energy behind the band. All the guys are stoked. We've all been exercising, getting ripped, and ready to just jump out there. That we hope they respond well to.
Good. Sound Resistance music, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of everything for everybody, I think. It has something that appeals to the 80s metalheads, people from the 90s. You got that great groove going on, I think, in every song that you write. I mean, it has some modern stuff in there. I mean, was there an attempt like trying to capture the entire metal audience, or does it just come out the way it comes out when you guys write?
Yeah, man, like maybe a little of column A, a little of column B. Like when I write rhythms, I write most of the rhythms just because I'm just like a rhythm factory, I guess. I just kind of jump into a room, and 2 hours later I come out with like a rhythm track for a song, or at least a bass riff, or a bass couple of riffs that I can tweak over time and put together a song. So that just naturally, for me, the writing process is extremely natural. It's not very calculated. It's more like, the most calculation I do is, okay, make sure the tempo is, upbeat enough to keep the head bouncing. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I'll just get in there, start practicing, start playing scales, start making noise, and come up with some arrangements that sound pretty cool as I'm like warming up even sometimes or whatever. And I'll get some riffs and put it together. And I think, then Anton and Andres also help us compose some of the guitar music. So, Anton can be a little more calculated with his writing process. Like he'll sit down, he's like, okay, I want this vibe, so I'm going to write a riff to meet this vibe, right? Where it starts with, okay, this vibe is, there's a vacuum in the marketplace for this vibe. We want to write a riff for this vibe. And he'll sit down and he'll put together a riff. He'll make sure, like, I want something at this tempo to get this feeling or to get this audience reaction, because he's also a professional musician for a long time, so he knows how audiences react to different things. So his main goal is, like, he's up there singing and he wants to utilize that particular song to extract a certain reaction from the audience.
True. Was this album more? I'm sorry, Danny. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
You were breaking up, so I thought you were finished. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I got to finish.
Oh no, that's just like, just to finish up there, like just a little of column A, a little of column B, and we're not necessarily trying to reach a certain aspect of the audience. We would actually like to have music that does appeal to a more I don't know what the word is, but that appeals to both men and women in a certain way, because you find, like, we would like to have shows where, there's a more even split of men to women.
Sure.
Where, like, if I ask my girlfriend to go to a metal concert, she's like, yeah, no, you know, like if
Yeah, I
like
know.
let's go see Cannibal Corpse, she's like, no thanks,
Yeah.
right? But if you know, it'd be nice to have uh, a nice a nice attractive band for kind of a wider palette. So we've been maybe pulling back on the death metal a little bit and pulling back on the guttural vocals and stuff with our newer music and focusing more on things that don't send some people climbing up the wall.
I mean, it's not a bad word, but you just say a little bit more mainstream in the metal world.
Um, let's just say wider reach.
Wider reach. I know the guys in the audience would appreciate you drawing more girls to the shows. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, anything that mainstream is a swear word in the metal world, right?
Absolutely, but it happens to most bands, and it is what it is. But with this new record, I mean, was it more of a collaborative effort between all the band members? Because I would imagine the first one, considering that you said you had a lot of those songs kind of in the can from years ago, and they were probably yours. Is this one more where the whole group was working together on this album and the songs?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can really tell too. It's a lot more. The whole album in general was actually a lot more calculated. It was better thought out. Pretty much all the songs. There's still a couple on there that we had in the can from back in the day, but we modernized them as well. And they're just more well thought out leads. We've got a few guitar solos on there from Gary Holt of Exodus, of course, which is pretty cool. And yeah, Anton had a lot of input. He wrote a few songs, just start to finish for the album. So we've got that on there. He also put a lot more work into the leads, and then there was Andres who also put a lot of work in the leads and ripped out a few solos himself. So yeah, and then of course even with Logan, it was like, okay, first one was supposed to be a demo, so he didn't give us. He just kind of recorded and tried to mentor us. But on the second album, he was more like, I think he just invested a little more elbow grease because he knew that we were starting to build momentum.
You could definitely hear that between the first record and this one. And you're talking about Logan. You've worked with him now on the last two records. There's something that just works between you guys. Whether you get each other or not, like musically, I don't know what it is, but there just seems to be a connection there that works really well with the band. I mean, do you think he just gets the music and that's why it comes out the way it does?
Well, also both him and myself and Jesse are all Scorpios, right? So we're all kind of like, we sit down in a room together and kind of just start going over shit. It's like we kind of speak each other's language. And, also just we have mad respect for him. Just we've been fans since the 90s. And, he's a very interesting cat himself, right? And the reason we got in touch was because he was interested in ayahuasca, which is a psychedelic plant medicine that we serve down here in Costa Rica, in like a spiritual kind of healing context in a retreat center. And so Logan was, he's got some funky ways of thinking and looking at life and looking at society. And so, I think he probably sees us as not your average musicians, not your average metal band. And I think we've also just developed a genuine friendship over the last couple of years. So, just being cool with people, being, honest and open and direct and accepting constructive criticism and respect in all, 360 degrees and all that just seems to be a pretty good mix for us.
You said willing to accept constructive criticism. Is it still hard to take criticism on your music, even though coming from him, it's not meant in a bad way? It's being, it's coming in a good way. He wants you to get the best out of you. But is it still hard to take somebody saying something about your music in the wrong way?
A little tiny bit, not too much. I mean, I recognize my lack of experience in this industry compared to some of the peers that I'm working with here. So, I'm not like, oh, that's the way to. I don't have conviction in my opinions regarding composition, like perhaps Anton might, because he's been in the game for so long. He's produced so many albums. He's a keen student of music. He's kind of obsessive about it. Or like Danny or Andres, who have studied all different kinds of genres of music that they have a keen sense. Or even Jesse, who just tells me if he likes something or doesn't like it. And if the guys don't like it, then okay, fine, it's no good, no worries. If guys like it, then it's like, okay, let's work on that one. And then maybe it's a simple like it or not like it, but then another guy will say, you might want to make this small technical tweak in this, or throw this harmonic in there, or like, play this note instead. Just like small technical tweaks that make the general good sounding riff sound better, or some type of lead that goes on top of it, right? That just makes it sound more punchy or better.
And these are things you learn as you go along too. I mean, I think the band has come leaps and bounds in the few years that you've been together, from the first record to this one. I mean, only 2 years in between albums, if not even that, less than 2 years. So, I mean, I see a lot of big things coming for the band in the future, and I'm happy that you guys are here doing it. And Dan, I'm going to let you go because we're really starting to lose the connection and you're breaking up, and I don't want you to think that we cut each other off. But what a great album. It comes out this week on the 28th. You're heading out to Europe. You're going to have an amazing time. Ross is a good friend of mine. Tell him I said hello. And the best of luck out there on the road, my friend.
Thank you very much, Mike. Much appreciated, brother.
You take care and have a safe flight.
You too, buddy. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, Daniel Cleland from Savage Existence. Right before that, let me get my glasses back on over here because I'm getting old and I can't see the screen. Right before we spoke to Daniel, I was playing the band Century out of Sweden. They're like a two-piece band, but they're a great sounding group. I came across them a few months ago, and they just released their debut record. I don't even remember the name of it, to be honest with you. I think it was called The Conquest of Time or something. I have to look that up. I got all thrown off because I thought I'd get the whole song in before Daniel called in, but we had to cut off the last 20 seconds. But they're just a great sounding band. So if you're looking for something new to latch onto, check out Century. A really, really good band. All right, we got to get to live Kristine in a little bit, but we do want to keep playing some music here tonight. And I'll get some Savage Existence on right before the end of the show. I wasn't prepared, even though I didn't confirm the interview, but Daniel's a professional. He did remember to call in, thank God. All right, but how about we do some Slammer with Hellbound?
wasteland chemical slew. Creatures lie dead upon the shore. Eagles rule the skies, no more lies. Crimes of passion lies. Crimes of passion, here is where the future dies. They burn a hole right through the skies. Lies. All of us are taught from birth the way our leaders rule this earth. Video lets the masses know how their favorite lives must go. Popularity, fashion clothes on your favorite TV show. Late night news brings all the blues. Don't you think we paid our dues? Lies, crimes of passion, lies, crimes of passion. Here is where the future dies. The burning hole right through the skies. Creatures lie dead upon the shore. Eagles rule the skies no
All right, man, we had some good stuff there. It was Thin Ice with Life and Death, and right before that, Liege Lord with Speed of Sound, and we kicked off that set with Slammer and Hellbound. Some good stuff over there. You know what? We're going to do our demolition segment demo, and then we will do a little chit-chat, and we'll get to the interview with Liv Kristine right after that. So how about we do the demo first, then we'll get caught up on the news and everything else going on. I don't think we ever really got around to talking about the whole Motley Crue thing with Mick Mars, because all that news broke during Easter week and we didn't have a show that week. But we'll try to get to that. It's pretty much been talked about all we could, but we'll get to that a little later. Let me see. We're going to do Bitches Sin. This is Out of My Mind. This comes off the band's second demo tape.
Never thought I'd see the day on the other road to hell.
right, Bitcherson, I apologize. That actually is the band's third demo, the Out of My Mind demo from 1983, not the second one. I forgot that they had two out in the beginning of their career. All right. Hey, you know what? Last week, Zach Stevens had kind of slipped and said that, there's going to be another Sabotage record. And then a few days ago, John Oliva was doing an interview, and he said he's in the process of writing and recording a new Sabotage record. It'll be the last thing that he puts out as Sabotage, but we hear that with a lot of bands. If the album takes off and does well, there might be another one. But he says that's going to be it. No more Sabotage after that. Maybe he'll do some of the festivals I think he was talking about and kind of wrap up that career now. I'm a humongous Sabotage fan going back to the days of when they were Avatar. I mean, so I absolutely love those guys. I started kind of falling out of favor with them around 89 with the Gutter Ballet. That was like the last record that I was like, it was like half and half on the fence with that one. And then when Streets of Rock Opera came out 2 years later, I just didn't really care about the band anymore. I have to be honest with you. They were playing music that I wasn't into at that time. And just kind of continued with Edge of Thorns. And then after that, Chris passed away. And then they had, Chris Caffrey was in the band. Pirelli was in the band. Al Pitrelli was in the band. Zach Stevens, I think, joined during the Handful of Rain time. And believe me, listen, Zach Stevens is a great singer, but I don't consider anything he did with Sabotage to be Sabotage. I just don't. None of those records, Wake of Magellan, Poets and Madmen. I think there was one more after that, maybe. I just didn't care for any of that stuff. And to me, Zach Stevens wasn't Sabotage. I'm sorry. It was that original lineup with John Oliver on vocals, Chris on guitar. That's just the way it was to me. But they're back now. I think John and Zach are both going to be on the record. There's going to be some duets. I think each are going to handle a couple of songs. So I have to be honest with you. I really just don't have any interest in it. I don't care what it sounds like. It's just not Sabotage to me. And, we talk about this all the time. Chris will be on it. Al Pitrelli will be on it. Zach will be on it. Maybe Doc will be on drums. I'm not really sure. Middleton, I'm not really positive who's going to be in that lineup of the band. Maybe there'll be some old Sabotage guys on there too. I'm not really sure. We'll have to see what happens when it comes out next year. But another thing I found funny was that Andrew Colton, the bass player for Witchfind, he's been suing Tracy Abbott because Tracy Abbott went out there and he's been playing on the Witchfind, and Andrew Colton had his Andrew Colton's Witchfind, but he won the rights to the name or whatever, or copyrighted the name. So now he's Witchfind, and Andrew Colton's band had to cancel a festival appearance, I believe, because they couldn't use the name and the promoter wanted the Witchfind name. And this is one of the things I was talking about before with Keep It True. When I was so thrilled that, when Messiah Force played, it was all 5 original members. Believe me, I know that's a rarity today to get any band from the 80s that has been broken up for the last 20 or 30 years back together with the majority of the original lineup. It just doesn't happen. Some of these guys are dead. Some just don't play music at all anymore. I haven't played in decades. So I get that. It's like when they had Cities on right before the pandemic, I guess 2019, it was just Sal Italiano. It was just Sal, the bass player. That's not Cities. Cities is Sal and Ron and Steve. It could really be any drummer because after AJ Pirro and the other one they had multiple drummers in the band. But those were the 3 guys that made Cities. When we had Alan Tecchio on the show from Hades, he was even telling us that, the festival, I was trying to get Hades, to play in the festival. Things fell apart with him and Dan Lorenzo, and I just wanted Dan to Alan Tecchio to come over and play as Alan Tecchio's Hades or something he was saying. And he just didn't want to do it because to him that wasn't the band. Even though he wasn't getting along with Dan Lorenzo, he just didn't want to go over there and do that. So I love it like they announced next year's bands, at least some of them. They have Stonewitch, and under the thing in parentheses, 3 original members. Now they're writing down how many original members are in the band to let people know. Well, hey, look, we got 3 out of the 5, so you should be happy with that. And you know what? I am happy with that, especially if it's the lead singer, the original lead singer of the band. With this whole thing with Andrew Colton, I'm laughing because he was on the earlier demos of Witchfind on the first record, then he was out of the band after that for all those years. Tracy Abbott came into the band maybe 10 years ago. He wasn't even a part of that original. I mean, Tracy's from Overdrive, another great brand from Britain that I love, but he really had nothing to do with the original Witchfind anyway. And he's fighting with him over, he should be Witchfind. I'm like, but you came in 25, 30 years after the band was formed, towards the later end of the band. Not much was even going on at the band at that time. So, I mean, who owns the rights to the name of that band? Now he's going out as Abator or something like that. I guess it's Abbott Trois. I have no idea. It's just how stupid things are getting. You got Carnivore AD, playing with no original members. And I just heard that Left to Die, which has some members that used to be in Death, not even the original members that played, throughout their career. And there's another one called Death to All, doing Death covers, that Left to Die is going to write original music now. So not only do you have these bands base themselves on bands that one member might have been in sometime during the career of that band, but they're putting out new music under that now. This makes no fucking sense to me. I just don't get it. But don't worry about it, because the fans in Greece, they'll eat it up and love it. They don't care who you are. You could have been the guitar roadie for a band from the 80s. If you decide to start that band up and call it that name, they're going to come out to see you. They don't give a shit that you were a guitar tech. They're going to come out and see you because they think you're that band. I don't know, maybe I'm jaded because in the 80s I got to see all these bands live in the original lineup, when they were in their prime. And today you have a lot of these kids who weren't around back then or even born that, hear the name, Cities. Oh, I gotta go see Cities. Oh, they're great. And the chair, I'm like, but nobody ever heard of this singer before. Nobody even heard of the guitar player before. They've never even played in this band before this show. But it's just the way it is. I mean, forgive me. I just go on this rant every now and then, but that just pisses me off to no end. Testament, Dave Lombardo's out. I think he's... I remember this big thing they made about guess who the new drummer's going to be and promoting who the new drummer's going to be and keeping it a top secret that they made the announcement. I think Dave was in the band a year, if even that, and I don't even think they did many shows, if any at all. I know it was kind of COVID shit going on, but he was in that band faster than anything you can imagine. I mean, I don't know what happened. He says he's busy with other stuff, but all the other stuff Dave Lombardo does, most people haven't even heard of or even support. So I don't really know what's happening with that, but that's that. Forbidden, back together. They're not saying it's a reunion, they're saying it's a rebirth. And I kind of like that. I can actually get behind that when they say it's a rebirth. It's most of the original members. They got Norman Skinner from Skinner, who's going to be singing with them right now. A completely different voice. Norman's a great singer, but a completely different vocalist than Russ North. So I'm curious of how it's going to sound with the old stuff. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get some new stuff by Forbidden. Matter of fact, Craig Loserio is going to be on the show, I think, in 2 weeks, the first week of May. That's the 7th. I'm pretty sure it's that week. I have to double check to make sure. All right, let's get to Liv Kristine. The beautiful, lovely Liv Kristine has a brand new solo record out, the first one in a very long time. So let's talk to Liv. Let's play something off the brand new record now. It's a pretty soft record compared to some of the other stuff she's done over her career, but we're going to play some music from that right now, talk to Liv, and then we'll keep the music flowing right after this interview. So here you go. Our Immortal Day off the brand new Liv Kristine record. I'm talking to you. How big can my morning be?
Thank you. Thank
It's a pleasure, and such a big fan of yours for, I hate to say decades because it makes us sound like we're getting really old, but we're not. And I mean,
you.
and I know we're not. I mean, 30 years since Theater of Tragedy. I mean, and you're still putting out music, but great music on top of that. It gets better and better with every album. That's the impressive thing.
Thank you so much, Mike. That's it's an honor and pleasure to hear that. It's now for me being in the just entering the second half of my life, being 47 years old. It feels like I'm about to release the first album of my second life, uh, part of my second part of my life. It's an incredible feeling actually. There is something spring-like about it.
Very true. One thing I always say, especially with your solo records, is that I feel like you're the books and you're a novelist, and every album is telling a story, and they kind of continue, but yet they're all a little different on their own, and you're the main character in every single one of them. And I mean, it's just astonishing how, like, you tell a story through your songs, from lyrics to music, all combined together.
Thank you so much. I think if I wouldn't have been able to release my album right now, I would have released a book. So I couldn't get closer to what you already mentioned. It's that frequency, yes, and it's that album about everything that happened during my last 10 years, 9 or 10 years. So that's a lot of material for a book too. So I feel like coming home. I feel like I can be. Yeah, I feel grateful towards the experience I've had in the last 9 or 10 years. Even if there's been really, really rough times, it still feels like it was worth it. And it's in the darkness that you see the diamonds, right?
That's very true. I mean, definitely, it's very personal. You're writing on a lot of cases, and you can hear that in certain songs. I mean, but you and Tommy have worked together for quite a long time, and there's just something magical between the two of you when it comes to songwriting. And when you listen to the songs and the albums, you would think it comes very naturally, and it was meant to be that way. But I'm sure there's like a lot of heads butting going on, but to get the song just right.
Well, Tommy has been so patient. Started sending me compositions already back in 2015. And as my life kind of fell apart in beginning of 2016, there were a lot of songs in my inbox, but I wasn't ready yet, and I was just trying to figure out how to get on with my life, to get some. To get a new financial source to take care of my family and uh, to to get my daily life working. And I was so busy with everything, so there was no mind, or there was no space in my mind to actually start that creative download that normally goes with an album, when I know that there are 10 or 12 songs out there, and I'm just here to work with them. So it took a while. It took a while, but it was absolutely worth it. And Tommy's, he's one of my favorite composers of all times, and he created, I guess back then, with Theater of Tragedy. And what it does is that he leaves that magic space for me to develop my melodies and to put in those words at the right spot. The every stanza, every word finds its perfect place to its perfect tone, and then again it resonates with everything. So what comes out is that emotion and that frequency of entering a magic space of music and words. And it's just, Tommy creates this dreamlike atmosphere for me to be really authentic and to develop and to spread my wings. It feels like freedom working with Tommy, and I'm just so grateful that he kind of he reached out in 2015 saying, "Hey, we've always worked together. Why don't we make an album?"
You know, collaborating with people is definitely, it could be a difficult thing. But when you're a solo artist, I mean, everything kind of falls on you in the end because you're going to put the final stamp of approval on the music and what it sounds like, from the album cover to the lyrics to the music, everything in between. But then there's also something that comes with being in a band where four or five people kind of share a collective on where the music should go. Sometimes it works if those four or five people are all in sync together and have the same direction and the same way they want to go musically. I mean, do you prefer it one way or the other, or do they both have, sort of their good and bad to them?
Well, this is actually just Tommy and me. So I have a solo band too, like a live band, but these guys are not part of my solo album. It's just Tommy and me, and then we added the guest vocalists. We added, of course, Erok. Erok is the guy who mixes and masters everything, and that's it. Actually, it's just a few of us, and it felt more sacred that way. It felt it's easier to communicate if there's just a few people. I have to say that I've been in bands where everybody had a saying, which is lovely too if it works out like a team. If you have that teamwork, it's wonderful. But when it doesn't work out, when you have one person within the band who tries to manipulate everybody else to think and create the same way he or she does, that gives you a hard time, and that takes away a lot of the freedom and joy and the fun and the bliss when you're creative. So I enjoyed this ride with Tommy and Arock and the guest musicians and the vocalists who joined in step by step.
What you just said is so true, and I don't think a lot of people realize that when they talk about bands and the creative process, that sometimes most bands have that one person who's kind of directing the entire ship their way, and they want it done their way. And as another musician in that band, whether you're the singer, the bass player, the guitarist, the drummer, you definitely want to feel like it's your band and your music, and you want to collaborate on that. And you'll have groups like Iron Maiden, where Steve Harris is the main guy, and a lot of other people could feel kind of stifled in a way, or AC/DC, where Angus Young is the main guy. So that has to be a very frustrating situation when you're so talented on your own, but yet you kind of got to take a step back because that one person is saying, "Here's how we're going to do it."
Yeah, I've experienced that myself. I made my experience, and it takes away a lot of that creative freedom. And but there might be somebody in the band, there might be somebody from the label side. Maybe there's somebody who paid you a lot of money and insists on having a lot of saying. That's things you have to take into consideration when you start working with people. And I have to say that I needed this silence. I really needed this silence and this space and the time to really develop and to be authentic and not to get stressed in any way. And during this time, I took back all the rights of Leave Kristine, and I really needed to have a look at what is actually Leave Kristine about, and what is it worth, and what can we do with Leave Kristine. I've always had label contracts during the years. Now we just signed to Metalville, which is great. I think Metalville has the right size for Leave Kristine, where we are right now, building up again, rebuilding everything, starting to play live again. Releasing an album again. So that's the perfect constellation. But I actually needed to take back everything and to have a look at it and to see, do I actually want to continue composing and singing? Do I actually want to go back on stage? There were moments where I doubted everything, where I thought, no, life is so busy. My daily life is so stressful. There is just absolutely no space and no way for another solo album. But I got out of that. So I'm grateful towards my friends and Tommy, of course, and everybody who helped me, giving me the courage, especially my new husband, Michael. He was actually the one who said that I don't think you can live without it. It's such a huge, authentic part of you. You can't be without it. because I was already 2016. I was back in a 9 to 5 job, and I'm still in a 9 to 5 job. I'm working as a primary teacher for kids with special needs in Switzerland, and I love my job. But and it saved me during COVID times. But I need both. I need to teach and I need to sing. I need both, and now I've found the balance. And you've been there all the time. You've been supporting me. You've been so patient, and I couldn't let this diamond go. I really had to take it back into my hands and really and see what it's all worth. And it's a huge part of me, and it comes from the heart. I never studied music, so it's something that really comes from within, from the heart.
And it shows on the record and within every song. And when you talked about like prioritizing like Live Christine all over again, I mean, there's Live Christine, the product, the brand, and then there's Live Christine, you, the person, the mother, the teacher, the singer. You have Theater of Tragedy and Leaves Eyes. Those were the products. You could always step away and say, well, that's what I do, and that's my band, and this is me. Is it easy to separate now when you are the brand, the product, and the person all at one time?
Yes, it is. It's easier for me to to maintain that balance. To When I know that, okay, um, I'll have holidays from work. Schools are closed that many weeks or that many days during that period of time. It's easier for me to plan shows and maybe to do a little tour or go to the studio or sit down with my Cubase and record some vocals. So it's easier to plan now, I think, because it's just it's my husband and it's me, and that's the album is coming out. So, but there are lots and lots of songs from Tommy still, waiting to be worked on. So it's just a very comfortable process, and I think that's the healthier way when there's no pressure. I know when you're, the more money which is included, the bigger the pressure is, and I felt that. And I just needed to get out of that because music business is not a kind business, not at all. There were times, no, hell no, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life touring, touring my ass off and touring my health off, and not, I couldn't really say no to anything, because when you get paid you have to say yes, right?
Yep.
There is some kind of control in there. I think you get me. It's not easy to say no, and when you have a family, you're a wife, and you're a singer and everything. It's not easy to be in all these roles. And now it's like, okay, my son's grown up. He's not interested in touring with me anymore. and yeah, it's much easier now to plan anything and to keep that control. And I need to keep that control, because sometimes I felt like I had no control at all. I was saying yes and nodding and doing, and I was actually, when I was watching myself from the outside perspective, I was watching myself getting really drained.
It's definitely an exhaustive lifestyle being in a band. And I was going to ask you too, I was going to say, if you went back 30, 40 years ago, when you first had that idea, well, I want to be a singer, I'm going to be in a band, this is what I want to do. You have one vision of what you think it's going to be and how it's going to come out. And then you get into the business and records start coming out, tours start happening, and, you start building up a brand name and a recognition. Then you say, my God, I have no control over anything. It's like my fate is in the hands of so many other people, whether it's record labels, the people backing the albums, other band members. I mean, when does it turn to where you say, what I thought this was going to be is really not what it is?
Well, there the there is a sweet a sweet there was a sweet moment. Actually, that was a sweet moment. That was the thing with Theater of Tragedy. We recorded a cassette with 4 songs for $50. We sent it out to labels, and we got a label deal a record deal immediately. And so we went to the studio, and then we went on tour, and we hadn't ever really played anywhere except from in front of our parents and a couple of buddies at the youth club or something. There was no experience. And then we were in the middle of Germany, and we were students at the University of Stavanger in Norway, and we had taken time off to go on tour. We were there in the middle of Germany. We had another 25 shows ahead. It was our first concert, and there were 800 people. And I did my first concert with my eyes closed, and I was like, oh my God, what have I got? But that was actually the vision I had when I was 3 years old, standing in front of the mirror with a hairbrush in my hand, trying to Deep Purple, Iron Maiden, all day long. I was a late talker, but I was a great singer. And already when I was little, so there was no, that was out of the question. Studying music, no. I've always been in there. I've always been in the frequency, and I've always had this vision, this inner call. And then when things started getting really, really big, and I was actually watching. I was watching the time, also being sad when I couldn't take my son with me on tour. I felt really sad, and the Skype sessions with my son, sitting somewhere in Brazil, and he was telling about that boy bullied me, that boy in my class bullied me, and I couldn't be there. I couldn't be present. I couldn't be there for it. It's not always to take your kids on tour. It's not always possible. And I promised myself that I needed to take back control and to plan better. But it was impossible because there were so many people, and I felt emotionally weak at some point, and that was during the day. I thought, do I really want to keep up this thing? Do I need it? And how can I become better at saying no emotionally anymore? So yeah, there were mostly beautiful times, but some moments were really hard to handle.
Sure. Well, now, all these years later, I mean, are you at the point right now where going out on long tours for weeks or months at a time are kind of a thing of the past, where now you're going to pick and choose where you play and when you play and just put on that performance?
Are you still there?
Yeah, we're starting to lose each other. We're getting a bad connection. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, I was saying, now with all these years later, I mean, do you feel you're at a point now where you don't have to go out on these long tours anymore, for weeks or months at a time, where you could pick and choose a festival, a show, just to play when you want to play?
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. So we're working on it right now. We're trying to get some gigs together, and we have a couple of festivals coming up, and I figure out one thing. I never played with my solo band in the US and in North America.
Yeah.
I played with in Latin and South America. I did that, and were a couple of solo songs and Theatre of Tragedy songs in our set list back then. But I never played in North America with my solo band. So it's about time.
Yes, it is.
We need to manifest it.
Yes, absolutely. Liv, one thing, I mean, people always refer to you as the queen of gothic metal, but when I listen to your music over the years, especially the solo stuff, it ranges from pop to rock to alternative to metal. I mean, symphonic, there's everything in there, and it's so natural. I mean, it isn't like you're forcing those different genres of music to come out of you. I mean, how do you describe your music as you?
Wow, that's a very, very, I think that's one of the most difficult questions you could ever ask, because I've always felt free, and I've always had the freedom from my fans and friends and followers, from my community. I've always felt free to be authentic, which is a great privilege. Every solo album is different. Every Leaf Size album was different. Every Theater of Tragedy album was different. So it's a great honor to have this freedom, and it means a lot to me, because I've never been scared about changing anything or doing anything or be daring or sticking to anything. It has always felt authentic, and I think that's something I can really say about my career. It has been really authentic. It feels like that to me.
Absolutely. And one thing, you are definitely the record holder for duets and collaborations. You've worked with so many people, have put out so many singles. I mean, how many of them were ones that you wanted to do that wound up being the greatest songs you've ever come up with? And how many were kind of like put upon you where you said, oh, come on, you have to go work with this person and do this. It'll come out great. Was any of that really surprised you that you just, in your mind, you said, I don't think it's going to work together with the two of us. I don't see it happening. And then you really was, taken by surprise about the result of the song?
That's interesting. Well, actually, I've always picked the ones with whom I felt comfortable with, and I felt like I can contribute to this track or to this composition with my input, with my voice, with my words. And I think the most wonderful moment was when I did the vocals for Nymphetamine, Cradle of Filth. And Danny called me in the studio and he said, perfect, that's what I wanted. I want your honey voice. And I wasn't even sure about what's the honey voice, right? And he said that's the sweet voice through which or in which by which I would like to like to read stories, or if somebody should read stories to my children before going to bed, that would be the voice. It's the honey voice, and you did it. So that was a great compliment. And I hadn't heard Danny's vocals so far. So when Danny had recorded his vocals, I was like, darn, that's a real contrasting a frequency. But it's just like yin and yang together. It's just perfect, and I'm still very, very happy about that collaboration. And we didn't get the Grammy. I think Lemmy got it. Lemmy from Motorhead. But it's still a great honor to have been being nominated for a Grammy. That was a wonderful moment.
Absolutely. Just to be nominated for the Grammy alone. And if you have to lose to anybody, I mean, it was Lemmy. I mean, so,
Yeah. First, hello.
Absolutely. But I mean, even your new record, a great bunch of collaborations. Your husband is on the record, your sister who you also sing with outside of this also. And like you says, you pick out great people to perform with. I mean, how did this one come about on this record with the collaborations? Were they people that you kind of had in mind before the record was recorded that you wanted to work on these songs with?
Not really. The songs themselves kind of told me that we need some more influence on this track. So the compositions always talk for themselves. So when I heard River of Diamonds, I knew that it had to be Fernando, and he's always been a great support, especially during the latest 9 or 10 years, and especially in 2016-17 when my life was just completely confusing, and when everything fell apart, was there telling me that just, I know you probably need a break from music, but please know I'm here, and if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know and I'll help you. And then I said, now in 2021, Fernando, could you help me? And he was like, of course, of course. So it's just perfect. It's just perfect. I think it's a really, really nice duet, and like Beauty and the Beast duet. With my sister, Love Me High, that's like, I don't see my sister very often. She lives in Norway, I live in Switzerland, and when we meet each other, we kind of we fall back on that black Norwegian West Coast rugged humor, and that's we have so much fun. And I have those moments. I've always had those moments with my little sister where I just felt like life's just beautiful, and um, there's there's this yeah, really really deep sisterhood between us, and yes, with of course with my husband, that's a lovely story, actually. My dear father-in-law, my husband's father, passed away last summer, and Michael finds a lot of healing in music, especially through Deep Purple and John Lord's compositions. And I actually wanted to uh, um, to record the song, to cover it, just as a present to my husband. And we went to the studio, and my as I had recorded my vocals, my husband said, "Can I join?" He's never been in front of a microphone before. He's never been on a stage before. I never gave him any vocal coaching, and he just did it. So that was a very beautiful moment, to see how my husband could find healing through singing those words, singing about those we've lost, who are not among us physically anymore.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, when you could take somebody else's song and sort of make it your own, I think that's the most impressive thing. And you kind of did that, with Pictures Within and True Colors, and they become your music after a while.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there are songs out there, compositions out there, which I really find important. And True Colors also has a message, for me, after everything that happened in 2016, when my life was a mess. Coming home to myself, going through this process, the dark night of the soul, and to really see the diamonds in the darkness, and to be able to show my true colors, to be authentic, to feel at home, to feel grounded again. And that's a message I find in True Colors, and I would like to give everybody the courage to show their true colors. If it comes from the heart, you should do it.
So true. And Liv, I'm not going to keep you. I mean, what an amazing job, on River of Diamonds. April 21st, the official release date on Metalville. I hope that we get many more. And yes, you do have to get here to North America so I can see you solo live. That would be fantastic.
It would be fantastic, and I'm so happy for all your support, for you being that patient, and especially talking to you today. And I'm so grateful about your support, because it's River of Diamonds is, as already mentioned, it's the first album of my second life part, the second part of my life, and it feels so special, and it feels great to be back. There were moments where I thought, couple of years ago, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go back on stage? Do I really want to? Do I have to? Do I need to release an album? Do I need to be a musician? Because it's something I didn't study. I'm doing that one thing next to teaching. Both of those things I never studied. But I realized that I find balance in both, and you've always been so patient, and my community is still around, and it feels great. It feels like I'm giving you this album and your arms are open. It feels really safe, and it feels warm. And I can't wait to get out there and play my songs for you.
We can't wait either, Liv. The best of luck with the new record. I can't wait for more to come in the future. Here's to the second half of your life.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being around, and thank you for this lovely chat. All the best for you and your family, your dearest ones. Be safe, Mike.
You too, Liv. Take care. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye.
I did say before the interview that the music is a lot softer and a lot poppier than, Theater of Tragedy and Leaves' Eyes, but it is what it is. But she's too adorable and too cute not to talk to and have on the show. She's just a sweetheart, Liv Kristine. I want to thank Daniel Cleland for being on tonight's show. Next week, who do we have on? Next week, Mark Sutcliffe from Trespass. They just played the Keep It True Festival. Actually, we spoke to Mark and interviewed him right before the festival, so we'll have that interview to air next week on next Sunday's show. Don't forget to tune in for that. Then it's May. This year I really tried hard this year, to dig deep into these underground bands that maybe had one or two demos out that people remember. But it's kind of like a failed experiment because 90% of the bands that I've had on so far have absolutely nothing to say. When you talk to them, it's like pulling teeth trying to get them to remember a story about back in the day or what went on with the band. They're really not talkative people at all. Some of them aren't in music at all altogether and have been for a long time, and I get that. But, we tried it. We gave it a shot. We're just going to stick with the regulars, the bands that are doing press and the groups that are active. They know how to speak and keep interviews going. So I think we're going to give up on the classic underground bands for the rest of this year as far as interviews go. All right, well, I was going to follow it up with some Angel Dust or Slayer, but that's not going to happen. That's a little too soft to go into that. So let's wrap up tonight's show with a little Diamond Head and Call Me Ryan Tatler, a new guitar player for Saxon. Take care, everybody. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Sunday night.
4 o'clock in the morning now. Babe, I can't sleep for love. Been waiting for you to call. Say you love me enough. Lost my head that unhappy night. Please forgive every word. I see it all much clearer now. It all seems so